I'm excited myself. You know how dearly I hold this local international ever since you've made this happen. It's been going on for a few years, and an amazing work has been coming through this. So I just want to switch to my screen and start my presentation. I wanted to present my work behind the brand and value chain. As Heike said, it's called Orno. I'm the managing director and the creative director of Orno. It's a local fair trade brand with a niche for natural dye. It was established in 1990 to support the artisans and the rural communities and the commercializing the process of natural dye. I've been working heading Orno since 2015. In 2016, I started a nonprofit, Bengal Craft Society, to support the artisans and the rural communities. While I was working to rebrand and restructure Orno, I realized it is not possible to address the needs of rural artisans and think of sustainability and profit at the same time. But it was also very important that we continue to work towards strengthening our partnership across sectors to innovate and create solution-driven projects. So I tried to separate the work between the two entities. So Orno is a for-profit and Bengal Craft Society is the nonprofit that I have founded. Together, Orno and Bengal Craft ensures training of rural women and artisans, create livelihood opportunities for communities, and help access market through the brand Orno. Our theory of change is to make a green value chain, which incorporates skill-based development program to address economic empowerment of vulnerable communities. So this is like, here's a diagram of the theory of change, taking example from a project, an upcoming project where we're working with different partners, WFP, Bengal Craft Society, and Orno to address livelihood programs for rural women in Cox's Bazar. So so we do the framework development, we do the research and innovation. In this project, we will be doing textile made of pineapple fibers and banana fibers. We started the research process already because of COVID, things got shifted. So I don't think we're supposed to start in July, but I guess that will be postponed for now. So one of the main concerns of Bengal Craft Society, the NGO, is to preserve and promote the handicraft industry of Bangladesh. At the moment, development of the handicraft sector is stagnant. The system that exists is such that there is barely any innovation, progression, or advanced education is there in the sector. There is also a lack of resource to improve the design process or to innovate. There is no solid market protection for the handicraft sector. A lot of these artisans are working informally. We are seeing a huge crisis at the moment because of COVID, because it's such an informal economy. Nobody really knows how to support them. So there is a lack of motivation, limiting marketing opportunity for these people. So from Bengal Craft Society, what we do is we focus on the SDGs, try the poverty, the gender equality, and responsible production, and train these women and rural artisans to work together. So Bengal Craft Society creates the training, and because it's a skill development project, it takes time for artisans to from rural women with no skills to becoming semi-skilled to specialized skills takes an incubation period of 3 years. No profit-making company can support this incubation period of three years if you are trying to create livelihood from scratch. Therefore, Bengal Craft Society does that, where Orno tries to ensure market access for these artisans and rural women. So this is how this is again from one of our projects. This is how we work primarily with partners, Orno and Bengal Craft Society. Bengal Craft Society works with design thinking, R&D, prototyping. Orno supports the design thinking because we specialize in natural dye and other techniques. I'll talk about it a bit later. We also give technical assistance to Bengal Craft Society in terms of getting consultants, designers from abroad, and connecting the dots for raw materials and such. We also create the market access. We have we have 3 outlets locally. We go to fairs, and we have an export market. And we also are key to connecting the partners. The partners are mainly the donors or development organizations who basically ensure the social cost of the women that we are trying to work with in terms of getting financial inclusion, how to get them bank accounts, how their children's going to study, all the social aspects of the woman while we try to create livelihood for these rural people. Mission. So Orno, coming back to Orno's mission, it was established in 1990. It's a fair trade enterprise. The whole mission was to revive and commercialize the process of natural dye, and then create socioeconomic viability for rural women in Bangladesh. The vision is to create a sustainable value chain which ensures the well-being of marginalized rural men and women in the craft sector, and then of course provide sustainable products to our consumers. So Orno, now the numbers change. I know Heike said that we have 3,000 artisans. So once I took over, I kind of dive deep into figuring out what our supply chain looks like. So we have about 33 rural producers who has home-based production facility. They have about 10 to 15 people in their workshops, very small businessmen. Some don't even have trade license, so it's considered informal economy. We have in their network, now we work with 1,600 artisans continuously. The other 1,500 is very seasonal if we have export orders, and they're not dependent on us fully. We also have in Joshua at the 300 home-based artisans who are doing slow stitch called Nakshi Kantha. I will explain Nakshi Kantha later a bit in later slides. We work in 18 districts of Bangladesh with all these rural producers. Now I'm gonna go talk about the colors that we work with. So Ruby Ghaznavi is the founder of Orno. She started her research in the 1980s to revive a completely lost technique, the natural dyeing process in Bangladesh. In 1980, she worked with this NGO called MCC to revive indigo, and she was successful. And later on, she worked with FAO and continued her research. And from that, she researched about 120 colors, and she found about 30 color fast dyes, and then we've been using that palette ever since. Orno, Ruby, and our master dyers have been training, going to workshops with World Craft Council, WFTO, and we still continue to do our workshops. So Ruby also did consultancies for brands like Living Blue. I recently went on a training with the Indigo practitioner of West Africa. We learned how to make indigo vat with fructose. It's mainly molasses and then banana, and ever since that we've been creating vat with fructose vat dye. It's been successful. So we're always trying to learn from the ecosystem of natural dyers across the world. We have exchanges, and then we try to incorporate all the learnings that we get from all the practitioners. We have seminars once a year, I think, and we try to go there. One of the projects that I did after Bengal Craft Society was established is work with the Muro indigenous community in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. So this is an indigenous community who's been working with indigo for generations, and their method of dyeing is very different from what we do, because we have kind of made pigment out of the dyes, and we work mainly with the pigments. There are ways to make cakes directly from the leaves, but the Muros, they have a different process. So that was a really a learning curve for us. There was a knowledge transfer between the Muro community and us. We learned their way of process, and we also taught them how to make pigments out of the leaves. Coming back to the other colors that we work with, there are tannins. One of the tannins we use is myrobalan, and it's one of the key tannins that we use to fix our colors. Madder is a bark of a tree which comes from India. Catechu is kind of like a fruit, edible fruit that people eat in Bangladesh with betel nut leaves. That gives us the brown color. Onion skin gives us a peachy, pinkish color. Then we have the marigold, pomegranate, giving us the olive, jackfruit, the sap of jackfruit that gives us yellow. Here you can see some of the shades. There's a project I did recently where I was I had to work with black, and we didn't work with black, natural dye black before. So a lot of research I did. We went to Thailand. We had a fellow natural dye master who does black with ebony fruit. So I brought some ebony fruit from her, and then it failed miserably to get the color black. But later on, through research, I saw that mixing two specific colors that you get from Bangladesh, you can get the black, and then the experiment was successful. And then we had this Jamdani project, and I could weave the textile in black yarn. So that was a good success for us. This is, in a nutshell, what we the places and what comes from where. We get our silk from Rajshahi. We do our ceramics in Dhaka, Jamdani in Naranganj, which is near Dhaka. The Mo jewelry is in Chittagong Hill Tracts. right next to Cox's Bazar, where we have the beach. Nakshi Kantha, the 300 women that works for us, is in Jashore. Tangail has loom. Yeah, so these are places where we work, and the products that we make are available in our local stores. For exports, so we do different things. We've been working with Jamdani weavers for many, many years. Last 2 years, we've been working towards reviving the fine count Jamdani. Historically, it was known as muslin, and the count used to go up to 600 to 1,000, and that skill set has been lost. There was a revolution. The British had cut down the fingers of the weavers. We lost the cotton. So there was a vacuum, but the tradition of Jamdan is still very much alive. But the skill set of fine count has been eradicated. So what we did with the National Craft Council, a few houses like Aro, Orno, two more, Tangal, Shaikuti, came together and worked with weavers, gave them 200 to 400 count hand-spun yarn, and worked and incubated the project. And we created museum pieces from VNA. We went for a research trip to VNA and took out their archive and then tried to recreate those motifs again. Now I would like to talk about a bit about Nakshi Kantha. I touched about it before. It's a slow stitch process, but it is a home-based artisan work. Traditionally, women in the villages, they would make quilts with motifs. All these motifs, there are many motifs, have individual names that the weavers, the embroiderers can refer to. And we work with them, giving them designs and then referring to the motifs. Even with jamdani, it's the same. It's a kind of a hand-me-down process. So all motifs have names and they have numerics that they pass down from people to understand the motifs. So Nakshi Kantha is something we specialize in. Our signature collection is saris and scarves made of Nakshi Kantha. We are enlisted with association. We get a lot of support from them, the National Craft Council, the Ekota Fair Trade Forum, the World Craft Council as well. Exports, I revived the exports just 2 years back. Ruby closed down exports because she was struggling because natural dyes, handmade products don't look the same. And when you are supplying to people like Armani, Selfridges, Habitat, they used to require a certain kind of uniformity in designs, but I guess that's changing. And ever since, for the last 2 years, we've been seeing good response from Japan, Germany, France, Sweden. We're working with designers and brands. They give us their designs and then we work closely together and provide them what they need. We have a CSR initiative. Percentage of our revenue from the children's collection goes to orphanage and a school, English medium school called Jago Foundation. Again, we do a lot of workshops over the years.
How does an independent designer venture out into natural dye and handloom based fabrics? And because the cost is huge. And secondly, in terms of learning about the ways of creating dyes and perfecting and experimenting with it, how does a designer get access to this information?
You need a wet zone and you need a dry zone, and it's all about getting the skill sets right. For me, like, I've been learning, but I don't get to practice because I'm running this organization, 2 organizations, but theoretically I know a lot. But when I went to Bali the beginning of February to learn from Abu, and it was just like 2 weeks of just Indigo. It was amazing. So I got my hands dirty, and then I could do the shibori patterns. It's all in theory. I've been seeing all the artisans make it. I'm telling them, no, you have to give a 2-inch gap, 3-inch gap. So it's all about getting the ingredients, working with the ratio, working with the pH level. There are many dyers who can train you, and once you have the knowledge, all you have to do is start working and figuring it out, the ratio. But in terms of making a collection, a consistent one, it has been a challenge. it's a challenge to create a uniform color shades. Now we have like chemists involved to exactly tell us how much of what is needed, so that when we do a batch of exports, we know which color shades we will be giving. We need to, a lot of the color fastness is such a tricky thing for natural dye. You cannot tell everybody to dry wash. It has to be hand washed. You have to really take care of the product, the natural dye products. It is an exception. You cannot consider, this is not the same as I don't know, a chemically dyed product, but India, Pakistan, all these Africa, all these countries have small productions of natural dye. I would suggest get in touch with them, do collaborations. It's labor intensive process. If you have that support structure, tap into that.
Have you tried working with waste resources and dyeing them with natural color?
So we do a lot of upcycling as it is. So what happens is when we create our sample and then we go for production, it comes, a lot of time it comes entirely different. So the sample is right there, and we have this whole fabric textile stuck with them, and we're like, whoa, what do we do? So we just go for upcycling. Then we also recycle our fabrics. Nothing goes to waste. We try to make jewelries out of the cut and piece of this. So we don't take fabrics, chemically dyed fabrics, to re-dye them in natural dye. No, we've never done that. But because you don't get other natural dyes, we're probably one of the only ones, maybe there's one or two now in Bangladesh who's doing natural dye. So there's no chance for us to do that yet. We haven't had the scope, but I would be interested if you guys have any ideas, or if you want to elaborate what you mean.
Thank you so much for your time, and we're going to meet you again in the further development of the project, where we're going to meet you in your studio and look a bit closer at the products you're making.